Is Vladimir Putin planning to attack NATO? It seemed impossible last year. Ukraine alone was a handful for the Russian army. But now new reports have emerged, new statements from Russia. They say Putin will target NATO's soft underbelly, the so-called Achilles heel. And where exactly is that? Let me pull up the map for you. You can see Russia, Belarus, Poland and the Baltic states. Now focus on this land between Poland and Lithuania. It's called Kaliningrad. This is Russian territory, Kaliningrad. Moscow took this land from Nazi Germany during the Second World War. And since then, it's been theirs. Now, Kaliningrad is surrounded by two NATO states, Poland and Lithuania. But there is a land bridge to Russia's ally, Belarus. This land bridge has a name, the Suwalki Gap or the Suwalki Corridor. It's around 100 kilometers long. It's sparsely populated, but it's NATO territory. The Suwalki Gap is shared by Poland and Lithuania. It's been called many things. The most dangerous place on earth, NATO's soft underbelly, and NATO's Achilles heel. But why would Putin attack it? Well, for strategic reasons. The Suwalki Gap is the only way to go from Poland to the Baltics, the only land route. If you take that, you can cut off the Baltic states. 3 NATO nations would be isolated from their allies. That's Lithuania, Estonia and Latvia. So simply put, it's a choke point. Now, if you're watching us from India, this may sound familiar to you. India too has a choke point. This one, called the Siliguri Corridor, also called the Chicken's Neck. This corridor connects India to the northeastern states. What Siliguri is to India, Suwalki is to NATO. But coming back to Putin, what's his plan of action? The Kremlin itself has not said anything, but Russian parliamentarians explained how it would unfold. No Russian soldiers will be used in this operation. Instead, Wagner mercenaries from Belarus will engage. I know it sounds confusing. Didn't Wagner rebel against Putin just recently? Well, this Russian lawmaker claims it was all part of the plan. Wagner would rebel, their fighters would be exiled to Belarus, and once there, they would train. Satellite images show new military camps have popped up in the country in Belarus. Hundreds of Wagner fighters have started moving in. Reports say they could take the Suwalki Gap in hours. The question is, will Putin give the order? Suwalki is still NATO territory. An attack on this area would trigger Article 5 of NATO. What is Article 5? It says an attack on one member is an attack on all NATO members, meaning NATO would be at war with Russia officially. Will Putin risk that? Let's play the devil's advocate for a bit. Russia has a lot of military muscle in Kaliningrad. Tens of thousands of soldiers, nuclear missiles, also the Baltic naval fleet. On the other side, in Belarus, you have the Wagner fighters. So Russia could easily swoop in from the east and west. They did something similar in Ukraine, remember. After invading, Russian troops made a beeline for Crimea. They created a land bridge between Crimea and the Russian-held land. So taking Suwalki would be easy, but holding on to it, that will be much tougher. NATO has been preparing plans to defend against Russia. They've dusted out old plans from the Cold War, so chances are they have mapped this eventuality, they've mapped it out. Plus, it's not uncommon for countries to prepare such attack plans. Not to use them, but just as backup. So perhaps this Suwalki plan is something similar. Logic says Putin will not use it. His attention is pretty much on Ukraine right now. He's pounding Ukrainian cities with airstrikes. The latest was on Odessa. This is a port city in southern Ukraine, Odessa. It was hit by 2 consecutive nights of airstrikes. Take a look at the damage. Entire buildings have been destroyed. Even the port of Odessa was hit. Russia is calling this revenge strikes. Retaliation for the Crimean bridge attack earlier this week. Now, targeting the port was not a coincidence, by the way. Russia pulled out of the Black Sea grain deal this week. It says Ukraine is using the Black Sea for combat, hence the attack on Odessa. And the whole world should be concerned about this. Ukraine makes up around 9% of all wheat exports, global wheat exports. If the port of Odessa is destroyed, that trade stops. So food prices could go up. President Zelensky says Russia is doing this on purpose and that Putin is weaponizing food.
Obviously, the Russian leadership is now trying to provoke these crises. Without our exports, the deficit on the global market will unfortunately be very noticeable, and not only for the poorest countries. Different countries will feel it, from Libya and Egypt to Bangladesh and China.
So Russia is on the offensive and so is Ukraine. Take a look at these pictures. They show how Ukraine is hitting Russian positions in the east. Those are Grad rockets. They're part of Kiev's much-hyped counter-offensive. It's been slow and costly, but Ukraine says this too is part of the plan. Apparently, they're going slow to avoid casualties. But how long will this continue? How long can this continue? Russia's strategy is to wear down Ukraine and NATO. If NATO stops giving weapons, Ukraine will fold. No two ways about it. And Washington knows this. The Pentagon chief, Lloyd Austin, says this is not the time to slow down.
As we saw again today, this contact group stands united behind them. Today, we recommitted to supporting Ukraine during its crucial counteroffensive and for the long haul. And this is no time to slow down.
So I guess that's that. 17 months on, things have gone from bad to worse. Food grain is stuck at Ukrainian ports. Cities are being pounded with little impact on the front line. And there are concerns of an attack on NATO. Maybe Russia and Ukraine are not losing this war, but their people certainly are.